We got a brand new merch design, the three pure-blooded Saiyans in their most powerful forms. Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, and Full Power Broly right now in the Geekdom 101 store. Get it in many colors and sizes, a variety of options for you to choose from. Whatever you think looks the best. And if you don't want like a regular shirt, there are tons of different design choices. You can get a mouse pad. You can even get it on a hat or a baseball cap. For a limited time only, the link will be in the description. Last time on Dragon Ball Daima, Goku, Shin, and Glorio made their way to the third demon realm, went to stay at a pub to relax, and then got some food, got into some trouble, and got their ship stolen. Now they're there in the demon realm with no ship and no way to get to the king of the third demon realm to continue their quest. We have arrived at episode 4 of Dragon Ball Daima called Chatty. That's right, just chatty. That's it. Like a person who talks a lot. Very simple titles here for this show. This is the episode where the party finally comes together and finally meets. Goku, Glorio, Shin, and Pansy is introduced finally in this episode, making up the foursome that are gonna do a big chunk of this quest. Of course, back on Earth, we've got the other group, which is Bulma and Vegeta and Piccolo. We still have not seen any update on them yet as of this episode. Hopefully in the next episode we'll see something. I want to comment though on the pacing of Dragon Ball Daima. I'm kind of mixed on this because while I do think that Daima's first episode had a pretty good little pace, even though it was a longer episode, I do think that things may have slowed down a bit. Now I understand as to why the pacing is slowing down, because they want to sort of give it an OG Dragon Ball vibe. And this episode still sort of feels like those early episodes of Dragon Ball where Goku and Bulma, they meet Oolong, they meet Yamcha, and that becomes their group. We're kind of still there. And with episode 4, that kind of concludes all that. So I think the pacing, while it may seem a bit slow, I think it's fine. However, there is one thing that I'm thinking about here. For the theatrical English dub premiere coming up in a couple weeks, they're only going to be showing the first 3 episodes, and there isn't really that much action in the first 3 episodes, with the exception of the end of episode 3 and some of the stuff in the first episode before they even became kids. And to me, this could end up being a mistake, because when it comes to watching a show at home, you can kind of adjust the pace for TV viewing. But if you're going to a movie theater and you're seeing 3 episodes bunched up together in a movie, I do feel like maybe they should have thought this through a bit more, because I feel like action-wise, I think there's not enough there. There's just not enough action there. And so I think that some people are going to go see this in the theater and sort of maybe be disappointed and be like, well, wait a minute, there isn't even that much action in this. And there is action coming up in Daima, because the series is structured to where it's OG Dragon Ball stuff very early on. Then the Z stuff starts to creep in, like Super Saiyan forms. In fact, in this episode, Goku is even more used to his body and getting more accustomed to the atmosphere and the gas and all the stuff that make the demon realm what it is, and he's able to fly again. So at least now we're back to like Goku sort of slowly picking up how to work things through, how to work through all this. But I do think that these early episodes are all set up. It's not quite to where it was in the Battle of Gods Super arc, where we didn't even see Beerus show up on Earth till episode 6 or 7. Here, it's faster than that, but I think it's too slow for movie theater audiences. This early part of the series is still building up the lore, still giving us, putting the group together before the action intensifies. I think looking back on this whole thing, I think the smarter thing to do is to do what they kind of did in Mexico, which is they probably should have had the end of Daima be shown in movie theaters. I understand why they didn't. It's a promotional thing. I get all that. But remember how in Mexico they showed the last 2 episodes of Super in like a bullfighting stadium, and it got this huge ovation. People loved it. They went nuts over it. It would have been cool if the final battle of Daima would have been shown in theaters as opposed to the first 3 episodes, maybe the last 3 episodes. You know what I mean? That I think that might be a better idea. But anyways, those are my thoughts on that aspect. So this episode, after the ship is stolen, after the ship is hijacked, they pretty much just figure, well, we're going to have to walk it there. And they start to walk. And this is where Goku and Shin and Glorio reveals he can fly. So we know he can fly now. Goku starting to get more accustomed to the atmosphere of the demon realm and his small body. I should make note, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this in my previous review. I don't remember. But the reason as to why Goku even went to go get the Nioibo, the power pole, is because with his body being small, his limbs are smaller, and he needs a weapon to be able to not only hit at longer ranges, but also he can't fire Ki Blast yet. He has to relearn all that, right? So he needs to go back to use the pole as a long-range weapon before he can go back to firing Ki Blast. Now, obviously, he's going to learn to do it pretty quickly because we've seen it in the trailer, but this is all being done to sort of give a reason to reset Goku's powers, which I am a big fan of doing something like that, but also to... Again, it's a creative way to go back to basics. I think it's executing what GT tried to do better because we're going back to basics now, where we're going back to the first few episodes of OG Dragon Ball before we start to get the faster paced, bigger fights from Dragon Ball Z. And then, of course, the GT and Super stuff coming up later on in the series. So... Again, this series is an anniversary series, so they're trying to put in as many tributes to older Dragon Ball shows, DB, Z, GT, Super, as they can put in there, while also building a new world to explore, creating new lore, explaining some things that have been mysteries for 40 years or so, and just providing a new product. And I think that it's doing some things smarter than GT. Whether or not Daima will be better than GT, that remains to be seen, because Dragon Ball Daima is not going to be a very long show. It's not even as long as GT. It's a much shorter show. Can they really deliver with less episodes? I think they can, but that remains to be seen if they will. Some folks hate GT, some folks love GT. This is not GT, but it's certainly taking ideas and reinventing them from the pen of Toriyama. So there you go. The first half of this episode still felt like OG Dragon Ball in that it still had that JRPG vibe of exploring, and they fight a monster. Glorio actually does some pretty badass stuff in this episode, and they go to a town and meet this couple, one of which, the male, was the guy in the trailer that a lot of folks thought was the king of the third demon realm that sent Glorio, but it's not him. It's a character here. And then the second half of this episode, there's way more action, probably the best action we've seen in Daima so far, with Goku kicking a ton of ass, the introduction of Pansy, the introduction of the militia from the third demon realm. It's what we saw in the older trailers, those purple-faced guys with like staffs. They are introduced here, and we're introduced to the masked Majin known as Pansy. Now, she wasn't named yet. That has not been... She hasn't been named Pansy in the series yet. We just know that because they revealed the character officially. They revealed the voice actor. And even before then, there was a leak, and she got out. I mean, we knew she was going to be in the show. I talked about it a year ago in September of last year. The girl with the sword, that's Pansy. She also has a gun, too. A different kind of gun, though. But we don't see that yet in this episode. But yeah, the sheets got out. So we know who this character is, but we don't know her entire story just yet. That's being saved for next week's episode. But this episode was all about getting the band together. Now, the reason as to why they're trying to find a vehicle is because the air, the atmosphere in the demon realm makes it difficult to fly. It takes up a lot of energy. Obviously, at least I think Goku and Vegeta, because Saiyans always break their limit, are going to figure out a way at some point to just be comfortable in it. Like how Goku and Vegeta in gravity training back in Dragon Ball Z were able to adapt to that and grow stronger. So this will make them stronger. The sequence early in the episode where Glorio fights the sea monster from the Sea of Darkness, which is kind of like a flying whale type of thing with wings, very, Dragon Quest-esque design from Toriyama, is all done just to show that he could actually fight and that he can hold his own. Remember, he's like Han Solo. He's like a hot shot, except that he's more quiet. Not quite as brash, but I like the way they did that. Goku right after ends up fighting this troll and just dismantles him. He's like running around, like not even out of breath, so they're gonna adapt pretty quickly. Now, what I found interesting, there's a few tidbits here. Apparently, Glorio does not know about ki, about energy, the martial arts energy. And that's interesting. And I wonder if maybe the demon realm has another different type of ki. We've been talking throughout the years about how there's Genki, which is like health energy to power the spirit bomb. There's Hakai, God destruction ki. There's God ki. So I wonder if there's another kind of ki in the demon realm. Now, what's interesting is we're introduced to a couple of things in the demon realm that are kind of like things that are in the regular realm. Like, for example, you know how there are senzu beans? Well, in the demon realm, they have this bug. It's called the revive bug that will restore your stamina. So it's kind of like the demon realm version of senzu. And the most interesting one is a bug called a join bug. There's a lot of different kinds of bugs, but there's one called a join bug where basically if you take the bug in half, give it to two people, they will fuse. So this is now a new form of fusion introduced in Dragon Ball Daima. This is something brand new. It's not Metamoran, it's not Potara, and it's not the fusion introduced in Dragon Ball Fusion with the bracelets. This is something completely new for the Demon Realm. And I wonder, because last Sunday I did a stream with Star Blast Studios discussing the possibility of fusion in the show, and I thought that because the Supreme Kai had the Potara with him, that they would do it that way. But now I wonder if these join bugs are going to be used as a new version of fusion. Very interesting. So they do end up buying some of them, and this is when they're at the place with the couple. They do end up buying a couple of them, and obviously that's going to come into play later. There's no question they're going to need these things later on for whatever fusion they come up with. I don't know if it'll be Vegito or maybe it'll be something like Vegeta and Piccolo. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. But again, this came off like such a JRPG. This is such a JRPG because it's like when you go to a store, an item shop, and you're buying items. It's such a JRPG, and they don't even try to hide it. That's what Daima is. So they end up using this device that's called a Sky Seed, which looks like it's basically a slingshot to get them over this giant sort of, from one sort of landmass to another to avoid the Sea of Darkness in the Demon Realm. Now, they have a discussion about the Demon Realm Dragon Balls, the Daima Kai Dragon Balls, because Goku remembers Piccolo mentioning them. This was back in episode 2, and Glorio explains to Goku that the Demon Realm Dragon Balls might be the originals. Now, here's the question. Does that count as the originals prior to the Super Dragon Balls? Or, they're definitely... Super Dragon Balls and Demon Dragon Balls are definitely before the Namekian Dragon Balls, but which came first? And that's going to be a big question, I think, going forward, which hopefully we'll have answered. Maybe not in Daima, but I hope we get something. And Glorio, of course, explains about the Tamagami and how they are the guardians of the Dragon Balls. Everybody knows where they're at. There's 3 of them in each of the different demon realms, and those are the guardians, the warriors known as a Tamagami. Of course, once Goku is told that they're strong, he gets excited because the only thing that excites Goku as much as fighting is food. That's how he's always been. Glorio reveals, though, that nobody has been able to gather the 3 Dragon Balls ever, is what it's implied. So that'll be something. If you want to know what the demonic Dragon Ball's dragon looks like, I did discuss it in one of my leak videos about a month ago. If you don't want to know, stay away from the video, but if you want to know, it's in one of my videos that I discussed a month ago. It's a very interesting design, and we'll leave it at that. Goku's plan is to get the Dragon Balls on the way to rescuing Dende so that he can wish himself to be adults again, including Supreme Kai and everybody else. That's his plan. Glorio thinks, though, that they should use the balls to rescue Dende and then turn adult again with the Earth Balls. We'll see what happens because there's a lot of different options here. So when they get to the next town, that's when we're introduced to the third Demon Realm army, which is called the Gendarmerie in the Crunchyroll subs, and they work for the Grand Demon King, the Great Demon King, which used to be Dabura, but now Goma has taken the throne for himself. And they actually show a brand new Goma statue with of course, Dabura's death in Dragon Ball Z at the hands of Majin Buu. They actually tell the people, the villagers, no, this is the new Demon King now. And the Goma statue is gold and very similar to the one that we saw in episode 3 with Dabura. King Goma sounds like he's more of a dictator and wants more from the people. And he wants to tax them 3 gold coins. Now, it's not explained how that compares to the currency in the main world, but the villagers are not happy about that. And they reveal that if you don't pay your taxes, you're gonna lose 3 years of your life per coin. So, that's horrible. That's a horrible outcome. So what happens is the villagers have these magical collars put on them. It's kind of like, if you know about X-Men, you know about how on Moore Island they have the collars they put to take away your mutant powers. Well, this is sort of inspired by that. I'll go into more detail in my Easter egg video, my breakdown video. But these collars, they can find you and they can actually control you with them. So I'm wondering if any of the good guys are going to end up with them. So they introduced this machine. This is something brand new to Dragon Ball that they stick into your back and they can suck out your life force. And the way they suck it out into this machine is that the machine looks like a lava lamp, which I thought was a really clever design. Probably, again, Toriyama design. It looks like a lava lamp, and so your life energy is attached to this thing. And that's how they shorten your lifespan. So Pansy shows up dressed as the Masked Majin, and she's got this, what she calls a wasabi bomb, which is basically like a flashbang or a tear gas. It's sort of like a fictional version of that. She tries to be the hero. They chase her down. Then Goku steps up with an awesome action scene with the bow, kicking ass. Again, it feels like OG Dragon Ball. Like the Red Ribbon and Pilaf arcs just kind of done now with a modern flair. And it's so fun to watch. This is the best action we've seen in Daima as far as since maybe episode 1 with the Goku Vegeta fight. This is the best action we've gotten so far. Goku just smashes all these guys, and Glorio is thinking, well, now they know that we're here, and that could be an issue. So the Masked Majin undresses or takes off her mask, and it's Pansy, and that's how the episode ends. The best episode of Daima so far. I still kind of wish the pacing was a tiny bit faster, even though I thought the first episode, did sort of speed things up faster than I thought it was going to go. It's still not quite where it needs to be at. I know that I was told a year ago, more than a year ago, without having much information, that somewhere around episode 5 or 6 is when the show's going to get really good, when there's a lot of really good action. Don't know how true that is, but it's starting to make more sense now because these first 4 episodes are just kind of introducing the villains, introducing the new characters, Glorio and Pansy, and then with episode 5 is when they're going to really go on their quest. I get it, and I think that, like I've mentioned before in streams, Daima's not going to be a long show, but it's too long to be a movie and too short to be like a 150 episode show like the original Dragon Ball was, or even 130 like Super. It's going to be less than that. So it's a bigger story, but not a giant story. Next week's episode, there's more action to come, and it's called Pansy. So her backstory will be revealed, presumably. So far, this was probably the best and most balanced episode of Daima we've gotten so far. And the best is probably yet to come because this is still sort of building the foundation of the show. But I'm glad that they are taking their time, although part of me thinks that Maybe they should speed it up a little tiny bit. Nevertheless, I didn't hate this at all. I kind of wish this episode was included in the dub theatrical run, but hey, it is what it is. So we'll see how everything shapes up next week. Keep it locked onto the channel for more content. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.